eagle's egg. And he liked one and having the second. So he put the eagle's egg under the hen. And when that hatched out, it was the funniest looking little thing to all those little chickens. Why, he couldn't understand what they were chirping about. He spoke in a different language. He didn't know what the chickens was talking about. I hope you know what I mean. So then, he watched him, and he didn't know what to do. And they all picked on him, because he said he was an odd fellow. He perhaps was. But he was an eagle to begin with. They could stretch their little wings and flop around, and he'd look at them, and they were all the way they were. Old hen would cluck, and they knowed every one of the clucks, so here come the little chickens all running in, but the eagle didn't understand that cluck. And he wouldn't come in, because he didn't know that kind of clucking. I'm not going to say much, but I hope you know what I'm talking of. He didn't understand it. He talked different. He noticed that this old hen, every time she'd find a little bug or something, she'd cluck to her little chickens, and all the little chickens come, the little eagle come in the back looking around. He was a funny-looking little creature. But you know, one day she happened to be out in the barnyard feeding, and the old mother eagle happened to fly by. And as she flew by, her great shadow swept over the top of the barnyard. She looked down, and she seen her own. He knows his own. And she screamed to him. And when she did, the little fellow turned his head and began to look upward. That's the way you ought to been looking all the time. And when he looked up, she screamed back and she said, "Son, you're not a chicken. You're mine." The old mother said, "You're not a chicken. You don't belong there. You are mine." And he wondered what he could do. That's what he wanted. And you know, there may be many a little eagle been walking in some old denominational chicken yard for a long time sitting here tonight. Right. But I hope that he calls you and says, "Son, you're mine." What must I do, Lord? That was the cry. She said, "Just make the first big jump and flop your wings." And he made the first jump and flopped his wings. He found out he wasn't earthbound anymore, because he sat on a barnyard post, right in the center of a Pentecostal organization. His mother said, "Son, you've got to come higher than that, or I can't get you." Said, "Just give another jump, and I'll bear you up on my wings." Another thing that the eagle does, he renews his youth. He's the only bird that there is that he can be almost gone, and he comes back to a young eagle again. Not in age, but just in action. Well, why would Jehovah liken us unto eagles then? When you're all down, as it would be said, in the dumps, then along comes a good revival, and your youth's all renewed again. Oh, I've seen the old people with gray hair and whiskers all over their face just shout and praise the Lord like a little boy 15 years old. I've seen people sitting bound in wheelchairs leap to their feet and scream and shout like while they're renewed. Another thing about an eagle won't build her nest on the ground. An eagle builds her nest just as high as she can build it. She gets out of the way of all other predators, so nothing will bother her. Some time ago, I was at Cincinnati, Ohio, to the big zoo there, and they had just captured a big eagle and put it in a big cage. Well, I walked up, I heard all the beating and going on, and I walked down to show Sarah. I thought it was two birds fighting, but when I got down there, it was just one big eagle. He had no feathers hardly on the front of him. His face was all beat up. His wings was all beat out. And I watched the big fella, how restless he was with his wings out and them sore. And he walked across to one side out of the cage, and he'd get a big run. And he'd fly against that cage with all that was within him, only to butt his head against it to fall back in the floor again. He'd lay there and shake his head a little, get up, go back again, and he'd look out. And then he would run just as hard as he could and beat his wings to rise and hit against the iron bars and fall back again. I walked up close. I thought if I had a hacksaw, I'd saw him out of there. And as he laid there and his great eyes looking towards heaven, the blue skies above him, he was born to live in heavens. That's his nature, is to live high. And here he is with a cage over him. And he can't get up anymore. I thought that was one of the saddest sights I nearly ever seen. I wanted to buy the bird. Well, they wouldn't let me have him. I felt so sorry for him. Here's a worse sight than that. There's men and women walking the streets that was born to be sons and daughters of God, living below their privilege, beating their brains out in nightclubs and everything else, when they should be soaring the skies of God's great pleasure and power. They were born to be sons and daughters of God. What a sad sight to see a man made in the image of God walking down the street staggering under the influence of whiskey. To see a young man in his splendor and his graceful looks, to see him down on the street with a cigarette in his hand, with his arm around a half-dressed girl somewhere, and living under his privileges. His soul bound in a cage of the devil's torment. A young woman half-dressed, beautiful as she is. Oh, all fixed up and enough paint on her to paint a barn. Out somewhere laying around in the roadhouse, when she was born to be a daughter of the Most High God, and she's living under her privilege. There's something in you that longs for God. As David said, as the heart thirsts after the water brook, so my soul thirsts after thee, O God. And you try to satisfy that blessed, holy thirst that God put in you, the thirst after Him, and you try to satisfy it with the things of this world. The devil is trying to make you quench that thirst by serving him. You're born to be an eagle.